Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Laura, for those of you that do not know, and today's video is going to be a new adult romance recommendations video. And now I've done quite a few other new adult romance recommendation videos in the past because I do read a ton of new adult and just a ton of romance books, contemporary books in general. You guys know that if you watch my channel, and you guys are always asking me for more recommendations, so I'm giving you a video today full of recommendations that I have never once talked about on my channel. I read all of these books in the past month. I kind of went on a binger and just was reading new adult book after new adult book after new adult book. And the really cool thing about this video as well is that every single one of these books was recommended to me from one of you guys. So thank you very much if you're one of those people that recommended me to read one of these books. I do really appreciate it because now they are some of my favorites and I'm going to be able to share them with more people. So it's really exciting. If after watching this video you're disappointed that I still haven't read your favorite new adult book, you should totally leave me a comment down below letting me know what it is. I really do take recommendations into consideration when reading. Some of you guys that tweeted me the other day giving me recommendations might notice that one of those books is on this list because I really took from that list that people gave me and read them, and now they're in my favorites. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. The first book on my list has actually been recommended to me like multiple times over the years of me doing booktube, and I've just never picked it up, and I decided to finally pick it up. And that is the Off Campus series by Elle Kennedy. The first book being The Deal. There's 4 books in the series. There's The Deal, The Mistake, The Score, and The Goal. And these all follow different couples, so they're like companion novels, which is my favorite type of new adult series. I love ones where it's kind of like a big friend group and then they all have their own books. I think that's really fun and really effective. Like I said, the series is based around a group of friends who are all attending Briar U, which is a made-up college in Massachusetts. Another thing, I wish anybody had told me that this series took place in Massachusetts because I live in Massachusetts. I would have picked them up a lot quicker. Whenever I find out a book takes place where I live, I'm more inclined to read it. So if you ever read a book and they're like in Boston, they're just in Massachusetts, like tell me about it because I'll want to read it. So this takes place at a school in Massachusetts. It's not a real school. They talk about a lot of fake things like the fake school, the fake towns that they live in, but there's also a lot of real aspects of Massachusetts like the sports teams and other towns. It's very bizarre. The series follows 4 guys and their relationships, and these 4 guys are all hockey players at this college and they all happen to be roommates. The first book is really cute. It's about Hannah and Garrett. The second book is about Logan and Grace. The third book is about Dean and Allie, and the fourth book is about Sabrina and Tucker. My favorite is the third book, which has Dean in it, who is like my new favorite male book crush, honestly. But all of the books are super amazing and so great. I really enjoyed all of them. The first book, I will mention, does have mentions of sexual assault, if that's something that you want to know about before going into it, just to let you know. But they're all really cute and good and fun. If you're into like a new adult book that takes place at a college with like parties and drama and chaos, like this is your type of series. And I promise you, every single one of the characters is so likable and fun, and I could find stuff that I liked about every single book. So it was a really good series cohesively. I would recommend you read all 4 of them, but you don't have to. But yeah, that's my first recommendation, and one that I'm really excited to share because I've been so obsessed with this series since I read it recently. The next book that I want to share with you guys is also another series, and that is the Royal series by Erin Watt, which Erin Watt is a pseudonym for 2 authors, one of them being Elle Kennedy, who wrote the Off Campus series, and the other one being Jen Frederick. This is a really long series. It's a 5-book series. The first 3 follow one couple, and then the last 2 follow a different couple, so it's like different points of views, but they're all in all 5 books. This was recommended to me by one of my friends, Elijah, who has like the same exact reading taste as me, so he was like, you need to read this series. So I was like, fine. And I just read the whole thing in like 3 days or something, and the books are pretty big, so I was kind of surprised with myself. But this series is absolutely crazy. It's so drama-packed and so much happens, but it's so addictive and like fun to read. The first 3 books in the series follow this girl named Ella, who was abandoned by her father before she was even born, and her mother ends up passing away, I think due to cancer, while she's in high school. So she has to start providing for herself and continue going to high school. She uses a fake ID and works at a strip club to make money for herself, until the day she gets discovered by Callum, who was a best friend of her father's and is her legal guardian according to like court documents, and she's forced to go live with Callum and his 5 sons. Obviously that just sets up the plot enough, but Basically, all of them are just kind of like, why does this girl have to live with us? And they all kind of hate her, especially Reed Royal, who is one of the older sons and has a really crazy infatuation with Ella that starts out really negative, but I guess you'll see where it goes if you read the series. So that follows them, the first 3 books. And then the 4th and 5th book follow Easton, who's another one of Callum's sons. While this story is super fast-paced and fun-filled and drama-packed, I did have a few issues with it. It is a bit unrealistic at times. This family is like super rich, and a lot of the things that they do, the boys do, they get into fights, they do this or that, and like it can always be covered with money, or like certain things that I'm just like, okay, that's just kind of like stupid. But as a whole, I did enjoy the series, and if you just love like extreme drama, cliffhangers, just like crazy stuff happening 24/7, you'll probably enjoy the series. I do think that the characters are likable, and it's a fun enough plot that you really get invested. I have heard some people say they didn't enjoy this series as much as others, so really it's for you to choose. You could just read the first book and see how it goes, but I overall recommend it just because I was super infatuated with it, so I feel like some of you guys are bound to be as well. So that's my next recommendation. Okay, so the next book on my list has quickly become one of my like new all-time favorites in new adult, and that is called Stepbrother Dearest by Penelope Ward. This was recommended to me on my Twitter a few days ago, and I recently read it. It's the last book actually that I read, and I didn't have super high expectations for this book. Going into it, I was just kind of like, okay, like it's about a girl that falls for her stepbrother, like cool. I've already read like Did I Mention I Love You by Estelle Mascom, like I don't need this. But the synopsis did kind of draw me in, so I was like, okay, I'll read it, and I feel like enough people recommended it to me that I was like, whatever. The book follows this girl named Greta, who is a senior in high school, when her stepfather says that his son, who lives in California — this book also takes place in Boston — he's coming to Boston for his senior year of high school to live with them. She's never met him, they're the same age, and he gets there and he's like this punk who has an attitude and is like rude to her immediately, and she's just trying to be nice, but she's also kind of attracted to him because he's super hot. And I just kind of thought like, okay, this is gonna be a story about them like falling in love, just like Dimily basically, but it totally wasn't. The book actually takes place in 2 parts, one of them being like the first half of their senior year until something happens, and the second part being 7 years later. So kind of crazy, and I wasn't expecting that. The story continues. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's so good, and like I was so obsessed with this story and just like enthralled in what was going on. I wish I could tell you guys more that would make you like more likely to pick it up, because it's really not just a story about these 2 people, their senior year of high school. It really is like the after that makes the story what it is. So I really recommend it. If you love new adult, if you love romance, if you love hot bad boys, you will like this book, and I really recommend it. Like, I really recommend it. Out of all of the books in this video, probably the Off-Campus series and this book I recommend the most. So please check it out and then tell me what you thought about it. The next book on my list is called The Baller by V. Cleland. This is a book that was recommended to me on Twitter a few days ago again, and I really enjoyed this book. It basically follows this girl named Delilah, who's a sports broadcaster for a football team in New York, and this guy who's the quarterback of said football team named Brody. It's a made-up football team, of course, but it's in like the NFL, and she's a broadcaster, and she goes into the locker room after games and like interviews the guys basically, and she interviews Brody a few times, and he's always messing with her and kind of obnoxious, and she kind of hates it, but he's also like super attentive to her and attracted to her and keeps asking her out. Until she finally agrees basically. But we find out that Brody basically has this whole twisted past of things that he's dealt with in past relationships and things that go on in his life now. The book is actually told in 3 perspectives, which is Delilah, Brody, and then somebody that is from Brody's past, which is kind of interesting. It did kind of have like a love triangle-y feel to it, which isn't always my favorite type of book, but it wasn't prominent enough that it made me like not like it. But it was a super fun book, again with the sports player. I don't know if that's been like a theme with me lately with my readings of new adult, but it's super cute, and I really loved the characters in this one, and it was super fast paced. I read it in like a sitting, I'm pretty sure. If you're into kind of like the hate to love type of book, I would really recommend this one. Same with the last book I mentioned, that's totally like a hate to love book. A lot of new adult books I feel like are like that, but those 2 are definitely with that vibe. So if you're into that, I would check out both of those books. The last two books that I'm going to be sharing with you guys are both by Penelope Douglas. This was my first time ever reading her books, and I'm really happy that I did finally because I enjoyed both of these a lot, and she has a ton of other books that I'm really excited to read. But the first one I'm going to talk about is called Bully. This is a series, I believe, but I only read book 1. Thinking back on it, by the way, Stepbrother Dearest I think is like a duology. There's a second book, but about a character that I don't care about, so I don't plan on reading it. And then I believe that The Baller is a standalone, but I'll make sure to clarify on the screen if not. This is a series, however, but I've only read book 1. I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't really know if I want to continue, but there is the option if you really want to. The story basically follows this girl named Tate who grew up having this best friend next door named Jared. They were totally inseparable until the summer before they started high school, where Jared started totally hating Tate and being rude to her and mean to her at school, pulling pranks on her, and just their whole relationship dynamic flip-flopped basically. For Tate's junior year, she goes abroad in France for a year, I think to be with family maybe? I'm not really sure. Her father like lives with her, but he's also always away. I don't remember, but she goes away to France for a whole year. And when she comes back, she's like, I'm done dealing with Jared being rude to me. So she finally decides to push back, and stuff happens with that. They delve into more of like why their relationship turned out the way it did, and I thought this was a really good one. Again, another hate-love kind of situation, but it did kind of start out as love because they were best friends. This book I really did enjoy. There were moments where things felt a little bit too like convenient to the storyline, you know what I mean? Like there would be times where something would happen and I'd be like, oh yeah, of course that happened, like, or of course this is what that meant, like, you know what I mean? I feel like it wasn't super cohesive in a way that like everything pieced together perfectly. It kind of felt like there were some spots in the storyline that were kind of open-ended and some things that kind of didn't make sense, but overall I did enjoy the story. Some people might not like the story because they may think that like he's so mean to her, how would she ever like him, basically. But I feel like if you read the story, you might have a better understanding of why. I did enjoy the story for what it was, though. Again, it was a super fast read, a really cute romance, and I enjoyed it. The other book that I want to mention, the last book for this video today, again by Penelope Douglas, is called Punk 57. This book completely took me by surprise and was totally not what I was expecting. The two main characters in this story are Ryan, who's a girl, and Misha, who is a boy. When they were in 3rd or 4th grade or something like that, they got assigned to be pen pals. They lived a few towns over from each other, and due to the fact that both of their names sound kind of unisex, they got paired to be partners, even though it was supposed to be like girls together, boys together. So they got partnered to be pen pals, and they kept in touch all throughout the years, all the way to them being in high school. And the story basically starts where they meet each other in real life, but only Misha recognizes Ryan because Ryan has never looked up what Misha looks like. They kind of wanted to keep an anonymity to it, and they didn't want to meet each other because they didn't want to ruin what they had. They kind of grew to be like absolute best friends, and they didn't want to spoil that. They didn't want to look each other up on social media, which honestly sounds kind of stupid. Like if I was talking to somebody, I'd low-key be like, Misha, like looking them up, you know what I mean? But whatever. But what happens was totally unexpected, and you'd probably have like, okay, they meet and then like he leads her on and she finds out that it's actually him. That's actually not what happens at all. Something happens where Misha decides to start going to Ryan's school, not because of her, for some other completely different reason, and he uses a false identity, again for a completely different reason, and starts going to school with Ryan, and they have like this hatred towards each other, which is crazy because Ryan doesn't know it's Misha, and Misha's been super tainted by things that have happened in his past, that he's turned really cold, and it's so crazy. Like you would think the story is gonna go in a completely different way, and it's set up where it could be like this super easy like concept, but the way that Penelope Douglas kind of changes the story and changes what it normally could be is really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. There were times that were a little bit confusing. There's kind of a lot of characters to keep track of as well, some that aren't even important. So I did have a little bit of difficulty, but not enough so that I had an urge to put it down at any point. So again, take it for what it is. You can read a book and try a chapter online. I read every single one of these books on my phone, on iBooks, on you know, an Apple product, so you can do that. The books are like $3.99 each. I justify it by saying, okay, like that's less than a cup of coffee, like I can buy that. So, you know, you can read samples on ebooks and see if you like it, and then you can decide if you want to keep reading and you can buy it or whatever you want to do. But those are all of my recommendations for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope there was some new ones that you guys have never heard of from me. I know I've never talked about a single one of these books on my channel before, so be sure to check some of them out so we can talk about them, and let me know if you have read any of them and we can talk about them right now. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know you guys have wanted some more recommendations from me lately. My next recommendations video is going to be for more YA books, so I'm going to start reading some more of those so I can get another great list out there for you guys. If you did enjoy this video though, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below. You can also press the notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I post a new video. Be sure to follow me on my social medias at LovellyLikeLara on Instagram and Twitter. I'm always posting on there. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!